Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. The time has come for us to jump into the fray once more, and the Unshackled Fury podcast is here to send you off on the path to war. This is episode 34 of your uncensored home for all things Warcraft. I am your host, Berzerker, and with me, as always, is the Gen to my Anduin. He is Navox. Welcome back again, sir.
I can't believe Battle for Azeroth is upon us. It's upon us and no one feels ready. No one feels they deserve it. And you know why? Because no one does. We are inherently unworthy simply because we're human. And all human beings, and elves and dwarves, Tauren and Orc, and all other races are flawed. But Blizzard loves us anyway. It loves us for what we sometimes can rise to, and in rare moments, it loves us for what we can do to help others. It loves us because we can help it share its message by striving daily to be worthy, even though we understand that we can't ever truly become so. Words from Uther.
Beautiful. Words to live by. We need them now more than ever.
Tell me about it, man. We get some cinematics and the whole community flips out. I mean, seriously, Jesus. This is a game. We're having fun. I mean, come on.
So here we are. As this show is hitting, yes, we are at the launch of Battle for Azeroth. We finally made it after all this time. And I know you, like myself, we've seen a flurry of activity here in the recent weeks since we've last been on the air. We've at least been on one other show since the last time you and I posted an episode here on Unshackled Fury. We were over at the Converted and doing our thing over there. So
yeah.
If you didn't get a chance to see it, we were on episode 133, the first time either of us had been there in a long time. But we've been busy and getting ready to go for this week. So between, I guess, now and the last time we were all here together, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been up to a lot. Leading up to an expansion, there's a lot of things you want to get done. House cleaning stuff mainly. I have 11 characters that are 110, and I have a lot of other characters that are a couple other characters that are not. Most of my characters are on Airy Peak. I went through all of their bags and I went through all the bags. I deleted everything that could be deleted that was soulbound, that was useless. I sold everything off that wasn't. I cleaned out every single last piece of profession, trade skill, anything. My banks are empty. My quest logs across all my 110s are empty. They're all caught up right past the Siege of Lordaeron. And yeah, man, I am ready to just go. It's that weird nervous excitement feeling at this point. It's that
it's the calm before the storm.
It's the calm before the storm. That's right. How about you?
Well, it hasn't been that calm, but yeah, just doing the same in terms of cleanup, making sure all my add-ons are ready to go, making sure that nothing hopefully is going to break, assuming that at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the servers don't crash and we can go where we're supposed to go, and I'll be ready, hopefully. I've been taking some time off leading up to this launch. I was out of town for a little bit, went off the grid, went to the middle of nowhere, and read a book and chilled out and listened to a river, and
that looked real peaceful too. You sent me some. I know I probably annoyed you on vacation, but holy shit, man, that was amazing. Super jealous. That was some. Man, even bears. You got to see some bears.
Yep. Go to Yellowstone, man. You'll see a grizzly. It's amazing. But yeah, it's been a little time kind of a way just to refresh and recharge and all that kind of jazz. But before that, obviously, we had a whole rush of activity going on in game. And for this week, since we are launching into Battle for Azeroth, we're just going to talk about all things BFA today.
Yeah.
We're not going to do necessarily a dedicated rage portion, although we'll probably talk about a few things that got us all riled up. But really, just today, we're going to talk about how we got to where we are today, what's going on, all of the crazy shit that's happened since BlizzCon of last year, leading up to right here, right this moment when we are waiting for BFA to come out and servers to make that switch over and all the stuff that's happened, because there's been a lot. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. When we first found out about Battle for Azeroth, we were still well into the middle of Legion, and this was at BlizzCon last year when we had kind of a surprise announcement. I think sometimes we don't really know, like, is there going to be something? Is there not going to be something? They announced Legion at Gamescom, so it's not necessarily a given anymore that BlizzCon is the place to do it. But then J. Allen Brack came out, started giving us a speech, and then boom, we had the first sort of in-game cinematic, which was all the highlights and the, it's Battle for Azeroth, and here's some stuff. And then boom, they hit us with the big cinematic and just freaking blew my hair back. And that was and we've been off running since.
Yep.
So had that going on. We're finishing up with Legion, but in the back of our minds, we're like, okay, we know where this is going. We're going to end up going head to head, Horde and Alliance once again. It is called Warcraft, by the way, for a reason. All these people that are going, no, they shouldn't fight. Listen, that's part of the game. That's like DNA stuff right there in the game. If you don't like it, go play something else. This is Warcraft, man. Horde versus Alliance. It's always been this way. Maybe it's not like so direct, but that's kind of the way that the game works. Oh, I want a neutral faction. Fine, go play Star Wars. Go do something else. That's your neutral faction. Whatever. Anyway, since then, we've gotten comics. We've gotten Warbringer shorts. We got a novel. We've gotten another cinematic, full-blown, fully rendered, beautiful thing. But of all the things that you've seen so far, the comics, the book, the Warbringer shorts, the in-game stuff, all of that, what has been your favorite part of all that?
Okay, so strictly out of all of that, man, it's hard to pick one favorite. Something that sticks out in my head, though, are the novellas, and I'll tell you why.
The ones that I paid extra for in a collector's edition that they gave away for free, and I haven't read yet because I'm holding out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So you haven't read any.
By the way,
I wish you did, because I want to talk about them.
All the people listening to this right now are lucky I'm not going off again for like the 19th time about the collector's editions and how I've been screwed out of everything on these things, and what a bad business decision it was for me to buy one of these stupid things. I'm not going to do it. I promised I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go back to this well again, but damn it. All right, novellas, go.
The novellas. So I'm not going to ruin it for you, but I will say that my favorite storyline in the novella is the Saurfang portion of him. Just, the story leading. So in the timeline of events we were handed, let's just revert back here so I don't rabbit trail too much. I'm going to try not to rabbit trail so much here. So we get hit with the attack on Darkshore. Then we get hit with the burning of Teldrassil.
Yeah.
Internet goes crazy. The Horde players go crazy. Twitter's on fire. Ready with pitchforks. Then we get more of the story in the novellas, and it fills in some of the holes. And then we get more of the story in the cinematics, and it fills in some of the holes. And when taken out of turn, none of it was making sense, which was actually quite interesting, because what it did was it created the fog of war for us. And you saw the confusion happen, and you saw everybody getting up in arms, and that's fog of war, people. That's what you're dealing with there. But my favorite thing out of all of this, and it's so silly and simple, was Saurfang going around Orgrimmar, interacting with the guards of Orgrimmar, because they're just fucking off. They're not doing any, they're slacking off. There's Alliance spies all over the city. They're they're running rabid. I could totally see a cinematic, and I would watch a cinematic, like a Seinfeld cinematic of just Saurfang and Orgrimmar with the Seinfeld music and him just interacting with the guards all day. It would just I would watch that. But yeah, that was I think that was that was one of the favorite things I had. And then of course there's Jaina rolling in on the freaking battleship, and then just, oh my God, seriously.
That was pretty amazing.
That was pretty badass.
So obviously what you're referencing there is the in-game cinematic, at least one of them, during the Battle for Lordaeron, where the Alliance forces are at the gates of Lordaeron, the old ruins of Lordaeron, and the battle's starting to go against them. The Horde is using the Plague, which they've used time and again at the behest of Sylvanas. And then all of a sudden, the clouds part, and a giant magical ship, which was the same one that Jaina raised up in her Warbringer short, comes flying through the sky, and she lays waste as a big ice bomb, and just completely obliterates all the Plague, freezes everything. Uses her maid skill, and you see her exerting all this effort to turn the ship around, and then there's these giant magical mana cannons, or whatever you want to call them, and just laying waste to the front gates of Lordaeron, and just blowing them all open, and birthing in effect also my favorite meme that I've seen recently, which was somebody taking the Led Zeppelin song,
oh yes,
and putting that over the Jaina arrival, and that was amazing.
That was amazing.
I really did enjoy that.
Hats off to that person. I don't know. I saw it. I don't know who it is. Sorry, I don't know who it is off the top of my head, but yeah, definitely.
It's in my Twitter feed. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, I highly recommend you go check it out, because it's so spot on, because it just really fits the theme. But to your point, it is kind of refreshing to see, at least in the wake, and we'll get to this in just a second, but in the wake of all the controversy with Sylvanas and the Horde and the direction that they're seemingly going, that there is still faith to be placed in Blizzard when they say, just let us tell the story, let it play out, let the pieces fall together, because you're not necessarily getting everything all at once. And I love the way, and we've talked about this many times on the show, and others now, is that their storytelling has become more comprehensive, and they've said this themselves in interviews recently, far more than they've ever been in the past. And it sounds like they're also learning some from what they've done with Overwatch, which was kind of a surprise to me, because I thought that they had kind of already gone in this direction with Warcraft. But apparently with Overwatch, what they were saying is, by doing the little animated shorts, by having these other little pieces of media out there, that it really attracted the fan base even stronger to the product itself, to the game, and it only fueled them on the Warcraft side to go, hey, we should do this stuff more. So you had these comics, which were great, and you had more insight into the Windrunner sisters and into Magni, and you also had the Warbringer shorts, which we are still one shy of as you and I record, because there's supposed to be one about Azara, we believe, who, if you don't know who Azara is, you probably should know by now, but she was essentially the Night Elf queen way back in the day when they had the Well of Eternity. This goes back to the Well of Eternity days. This is 10,000 years ago kind of stuff. And she, was in communication with the Burning Legion, bringing the Burning Legion through the portal. It all went to shit. They blew that thing to hell. And essentially, she made a deal with the old gods as she was basically sinking, falling, dying into the ocean. And that's how the Naga were born, was you had all these old night elves, part of her guard way back in the day. They all became the Naga, and she's been hiding out in the ocean. We've seen kind of hints about her, bits and pieces of her over time. But now we're probably going to get her full on pissed off and angry and full of wrath and kicking our asses. And there is apparently one Warbringer short that has to do with her that is left to go. So maybe we get that at launch?
Maybe. Or maybe we'll get it tonight. Maybe they'll give it to us tonight.
I mean, I would think that they would do it before launch, but they can do what they want, I guess. So we had all of that, and that's all been fantastic. You and I have enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But in the midst of all of this, probably the main topic we're going to talk about today is the overwhelming amount of controversy that came about regarding Sylvanas and her decision to burn down Teldrassil. The toxicity that came to the forefront from our player base was impossible to miss, was very unfortunate, and in my eyes, I was very surprised, to be quite honest, that people were so upset when they have been telegraphing this full-on heel turn for years.
Yeah, we knew about the burning of Teldrassil at BlizzCon. We knew about that. We knew that was going to happen.
That was no secret.
Right.
What it seems like certain folks have held on to is Ian Hazzikostas and others saying, well, it's morally gray. It's not necessarily black and white.
Yeah.
When you heard those kinds of things, to you, did that seem like they were letting Sylvanas off the hook, or did it seem like there was just simply more going on than they were willing to say at the time?
There's always more going on than they're willing to say. If they come right out and tell you the entire story, how interested are you going to be in it? I mean, seriously, if they come out granted, people like spoilers. I love spoilers as much as everybody else, but if they come out and just tell you, okay, guys, listen, this is what's going to happen. Sylvanas is going to burn the tree down because of A, B, C, D, and E. This is what's going to happen. Then you guys are going to do a raid. Here's all the end bosses. Here's all the story. Oh, there's going to be a cinematic about that. You're not going to buy into that. You're going to be like, okay, well, thanks. I'm going to go do something else.
Yep.
I think they've actually come around and started. There's only so many ways you could tell a story. This time they become real creative. Part of me feels like they're trying to break the fourth wall in such a way that how everybody's been talking about old gods and how people have been corrupted and this, that, and the other. Well, what if that leaked out into the community because of the toxicity and the shit that we saw turn up on Twitter? I mean, seriously, think about what has been. I know people are inherently good and bad, despite of what their interests are, Warcraft, whatever they are. But it seems, going back to this topic of the whole Sylvanas and people getting up in arms about things, you said it yourself. This character has been doing this shit for years. Gilneas, for example, no one flipped out about that. We talked about that briefly on the. She
used the plague and the blight and all that stuff back then. I mean, it's in character.
Sylvanas working as designed. This is her working as designed.
Yeah, this is a feature, not a bug.
It's a feature. It's exactly.
and to an extent, I can understand that Sylvanas is a very interesting character, has a great backstory. I think that I, in particular, can say I'm intrigued by her story because of her connection to Arthas, to the Lich King, to that whole vibe, because again, watching her in a cinematic raise the skeletons of dead soldiers as an army, who does that look like? Hello. I mean, she's going down this Arthurian, not Arthurian, but Arthesian path of being the sort of Lich Queen. I'm still going to go down this road until they tell me to stop. And I understand that people are upset because she's a compelling character, and now there is no nuance. There isn't like, oh, she did this thing and it just looks bad. No, it's bad. It's bad. She basically walked up to a dying night elf and was like, oh, you still have hope? Let me try to smush that out. Burn it.
Right.
That is full on bad guy, sinister mustache twirling shit. And I love it. I loved it because, to me, I've been expecting that. She has, in the novel Before the Storm, she killed her own people because they were trying to defect. She's used this plague that was part of shit going down in the Wrath era, and she's done it more than once. She has not really shown, okay, I get it in the cinematic, she goes, for the Horde, but she's not really for the Horde, man. I mean, she's kind of for herself. And all of this, all of the tree burning, the attack on Darkshore, all of that kind of stuff, all of that was because she was enacting a first strike mentality. So going back to the logic for why all of this is happening is we get a hold of the Azerite, we know, Horde knows, Alliance knows, they're looking at each other going, oh shit, well, someone's going to use it for something bad. And Sylvanas decided, I'm going the Culling of Stratholme routine, and I'm going to get them before they get me.
Right.
And that's why they came. I mean, and that's not a hard sell. Go through your history books. That is not a hard sell to tell a bunch of people that just got smoked in a war or just had mass casualties due to a war, hey, these other people are going to try to come get us. Let's go get them first because we can. People are going to get on board with that. That's not an impossible story to tell. And that's what happened here. And yeah, okay. Did she decide, yeah, we're going to blow up this thing on her own? It's what it looks like, because Sourfang sure seemed pissed. And they are definitely setting him up to be the future leader of the Horde.
Yeah.
I mean, he embodies, I think, everything that Garrosh should have been, but was not. Be that as it may. They're setting Sourfang up for a good leadership role here. But in the wake of all of this, and after the burning of Teldrassil, after Before the Storm, all this kind of stuff, social media just explodes.
Yep.
And people are going ape shit. And they're going after Christy Golden. They're going after every developer they can. They're just spewing vitriol and bile over everyone. Yep. And I know, like myself, you saw a ton of this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was driving me nuts. The extremist nerd culture in general has been driving me nuts now for a while. We live in a very geek-centric now culture. We're spoiled. And people in general don't appreciate what we have now. And we'll touch base on it, but I think Chris Metzen said it best in his latest interview with Scott Johnson. It says, we have an embarrassment of riches in terms of content these days. I mean, if you look back when we were kids, we'd watch TV or read comic books. And then if you wanted to give feedback, you'd write a letter and then hope and pray that it made it to the back of the comic books in the Q&A section.
Yeah.
Where they had the letters from the readers. Or maybe an author took time to sign a name or picture to a standard response mail, and you'd get it in the mail months later. You would have forgotten. Oh yeah, I forgot. I emailed Stanley at Marvel and I got the signed picture or something like that. But no, now we hop on social media and we vomit and spew hate, showing people, who are new to social media even, that the only way to get your word out, to get your point across, or to solve an issue is to attack someone. And those are actual human beings on the other side, working to fulfill your story, your video game, whatever little corner of the geek nerd universe you want to ingest. They're working on this. I've been a geek and nerd for a very, 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 very long time. I played football and wrestled in high school. The tides have turned where, the jocks and the athletes aren't the bullies here. It's the geeks and the nerds that are doing it. It's crazy.
Yeah, the times have changed.
Times have changed.
just like Garrosh once told Gul'dan, times change.
Times change. It's right,
and that is very true. And to your point, and this was something that I got into at least a couple of people on Twitter about, where I had seen, all the stuff, all the stuff about people just pretty much blatantly saying to Christy Golden, fuck you ruined this.
Oh, yeah. Mr. 13 followers. Yeah, I saw that going back and forth. I'm like, dude, are you going to burn out anytime soon here? Because this is,
there was
seriously.
At least one. Yeah, there was at least one that I saw that was just, he just wanted to argue with everybody. And that's a lot of what happens, is that you get people that, I don't know if they just have that much time on their hands or they don't have anything else to do or whatever, but you see certain people just go argument to argument to argument to argument to argument, and it's not a discussion or anything. It's just, I'm trying to argue this thing or whatever.
Right.
And I think the point that I was trying to get across to a lot of people, and I'll say the same thing here, which is that there is a very big difference between saying, hey, here is an idea that I don't like. Here is something that has happened in this story, like Sylvanas making this full-on heel turn. I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea because of XYZ reasons. Perfectly normal. Totally okay. Feel free to disagree all you want. No problem with that. It's when you start going after the human beings and saying, fuck you, you suck, you don't know what you're doing, you're the worst, blah, blah, blah. I mean, every crazy idiot thing that could be said to these people. That's where the reputation of a bunch of spoiled brats becomes earned.
Yep.
Because just like Chris Metzen said, as you repeated, and as many of us have seen, maybe it's just it's the perspective of those of us who are a little bit older, is that it has never been a better time to be a geek or a nerd or be nerdy about shit. It's never been this good, man. Like,
nope.
The biggest films in the world right now are comic book movies. Like, it's never been a better time for us. And unfortunately, that also means that you have more people coming out of the woodwork under the anonymity of the internet and saying all kinds of horrible, crazy stuff. And it's our responsibility, and I do believe this very strongly, it's our responsibility as a community to police ourselves. And I have said this before on this show, is that when you see something going on that is beyond reprehensible, you have a duty to speak out against that, because we have to police ourselves. I am not in any way, shape, or form against name and shame. You see stuff going on, put them in their place, man. Because certainly on Twitter, the people that run Twitter aren't going to do shit. Because they're, if anything, the land of the lawless. And it's up to us to make sure that when people are being personally attacked, that we come to the aid of our friends, of our allies, however you want to call it, and say, hey, not okay. You want to talk about ideas, you want to talk about storylines, no problem. We can talk about all that kind of stuff. But when you start attacking somebody personally, can't happen. That's got to end. And yeah, you can block them, you can mute them, you can do all that kind of stuff too. But there's always going to be this sort of herd mentality with the internet, and we all know this, where we have to have enough good to speak up against the bad. And I think that's just how that goes. And unfortunately, we saw a lot of that coming out of this situation with the burning of Teldrassil and what's going on with Sylvanas, and Blizzard trying to say, hey, listen, just chill out, just wait, understand the passion, love the passion. This is what we're looking for. People getting up in arms, getting excited. Lord knows any press is good press, because I see a lot of people coming back to the game right now. But then, in the midst of all this craziness, people saying, it's not my horde, I don't know what this is, I'm going to quit, blah, blah, blah. They drop, arguably, one of the greatest cinematics in the history of this game with Old Soldier.
Yep, absolutely.
Fully rendered cinematic, first time ever not an intro cinematic to a game. All about Sourfang, and I'm going to say this one time, Zappy Boy the Troll, and I know he has a real name.
God, I can't believe
I know. But the story of Sourfang and seeing him embodying that strength, the honor, all of the good things that the Horde wants to be, and then bringing in, of course, his son, who, by the way, if you don't know who that is, go run through Icecrown Citadel and you'll see him, because we fought that guy. He's there at the dead body of his son because we killed him. Like, that's who that is. Like, that is, when I saw that, I was like, dude, you are pulling too hard at my heartstrings right now, because this is some mega huge, awesome stuff going on right now. And then immediately I saw somebody tweet, I'd burn 1,000 Teldrassils for Zappy Boy. They completely turned people around with that cinematic, and they knew that they had that in the tank, obviously, ready to go. What an amazing turnaround that was, and a glorious cinematic. Horde and Alliance alike, you have to love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember seeing it, a message. I'm like, oh my God, did you just see that?
You did, and I was like, what is this?
We were not expecting it. We totally weren't expecting that. So it was a nice surprise.
I thought it was another Warbringer short.
Yeah.
I thought it was just going to be, part of the Ajara one or something. And then I pulled it up on my television on YouTube, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is am I looking at the right thing? Like, this is a full cinematic.
Admittedly, I was like, I guess, I can get into the still frame art. We got it with the Illidan Stormrage and the Demon Hunter storyline and all the rest of the Warbringers, Warbringers,
The Lords of War.
Lords of War, right?
Yeah.
And then we got it this round again, and I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that. And deep down, I was missing the Blizzard cinematics, because Blizzard with their cinematics, they just get it right every single time. They just get it right. I do remember logging in and wanting to play my work at that point. I was like, wow, this is really great. So it's just, Saurfang embodies, like you said, the honor of the Horde. He reminds me a lot of the Klingon culture. I really, really like that when the Horde's depicted that way. I know we're an alliance. We're alliance heavy. We're alliance centric, but I do like when the Horde is depicted in a very honorable sense, and I got that from the cinematic, and I like the interaction between him and Zakan. It was later discovered his name was Zakan, so I think they named him so it wouldn't just keep going with Zappy Boy. But yeah, it was one of the better. It was one of the best cinematics I've seen. So yeah.
And you and I, yes, I mean this is a alliance centric podcast, but more than anything, we're warriors.
Yes,
like you and I.
Yeah,
if there was no faction, you and I would be warrior faction.
Yes,
I mean that's just that's the line by which we break down a lot of things. And Saurfang embodies a lot of what you and I think, enjoy about the quote unquote warrior culture. It's strength and honor and just huge badassery. I mean that's
right. Yeah.
Glorious deaths. Those kinds of things.
Exactly.
I mean, all this sort of, Leonidas in the 300 sort of mentality. I mean, that is very much the kind of gameplay and ideas and culture that we sort of gravitate to when we play in these games. And you certainly got that out of that specific cinematic. And what was interesting to me was that it's called Old Soldier, and to shift gears just a little bit back to what we were talking about a second ago, was Scott Johnson of the Instance podcast, who is, well known to just about all of us, had a second interview with Chris Metzen, who used to be, one of the huge higher-ups at Blizzard. He was responsible for a lot of the story and content creation during the early days of Blizzard up until about 2.5 years ago. And he had a second part interview or a second interview with Chris Metzen that came out just this past week. And part of what Metzen had talked about, and we'll talk about a few things here that made the interview. It was a really great interview. I think both you and I agree. It's
absolutely
totally worth to listen to. But even Metzen was talking about how he very much enjoys the old soldier kind of mentality, or when it comes to storylines and what makes a character interesting. And when you look at some of the characters that have come through Warcraft, StarCraft, if you've ever played through that, Jim Raynor, very much the old soldier, fought back way early, and now he's an old marshal in some backwater planet.
What in tarnation?
It is very much part of the DNA of Blizzard. So going into the interview that Metzen had, highly encourage everyone to listen to it. It's a little bit over an hour, but they spent a good majority of the time, not necessarily talking about him, his past, future, present, whatever, but they talked about fan and player toxicity.
Oh yeah, they did.
What did you think about that?
I was happy that they touched base on it. First of all, a huge thank you to Chris and Scott for their time on that interview. I listened to it twice, and as fans, we eat that shit up. We love it whenever you get the Godfather himself on there, of storytelling for this. And, and I think this really needs to be listened to by all Warcraft players to just calm everybody the fuck down. There was, he said a couple things on this. He said expressions of content do not match their expectations. And this is, this is what set people off in the community. Mm-hmm. He also said we need to be appreciative of all the cool shit happening. And he's right. He brought something up about, even your failures need to be taught. And he talked about, how, after he had retired, he can look back on fondness of Blizzard going, you know what, it wasn't, it wasn't all bad and things like that. And how we need to engage in positivity in the community. And that hits home for everybody. We all need to engage in positivity here.
And so you listened to that interview twice.
Yep.
I only listened to it once. But you and I, coming out of listening to that interview, seem to have different opinions about what the future of Chris Metzen may hold.
I do. Yep.
Because I listened to that interview, and I hear somebody who, listen, he probably made a boatload of cash working for Blizzard, being in there as early as he was, being responsible for what he was, being as high in the hierarchy of that company as he was. The fact that both he and his wife don't work, probably live a pretty good lifestyle. He's retired with his kids, hanging out, having a good time. No pressure, no deadlines, no nothing. It's just whatever. I mean, it sounds like he had a pretty gnarly neck surgery, which kept him down, he said, for about 4 months, which, glad to hear that he's doing well now. But I hear the voice of a man who has no desire to step back into that kind of world whatsoever. And instead, it's, if inspiration strikes, if the right kind of thing comes along, it's kind of like Patrick Stewart announcing, what it was last week, that they're bringing Jean-Luc Picard back and doing a whole new show, because to him, something was brought to him that piqued his interest to finally bring that character back and to do something. I get the same sense from Metzen, where if there's the right kind of specific project, he might work on it. And that's not even specific to Blizzard. That could be a comic. That could be an animated series he talked about. It could be any number of things. So I could see him doing that, but I don't ever see him coming back to the halls of Blizzard for anything more than a meet and greet, or maybe doing some audio recordings for a future Thrall video.
I kind of feel like he still has stories to tell, and I kind of feel like at some point he may come back in a capacity that would, give him creative, I don't know, let him sit down with the storytellers, like with Christy Golden and the rest of the writing team, and come up with new characters and things like that. Because we have our heroes, but there's room for new heroes. There's room for new stories. This world that we, exist in, on our off time, it's our hobby. It's an ever evolving world. It's going to need more stories. I know that he's at home. He's enjoying life. I know that he had some, the surgery done. I have never had a surgery done like that, but I know, looking at my dad, who's had a very severe, he had extensive back surgery done, same thing, plates and screws and things like that. After he was down and out for a little bit, he was home for well over a year and a half. And after a year and a half, as much as he, wanted to retire and be done, there's still part of him that was just like, this is great, but I have to go back to work. Like, I have to, there's a creative and there's a creative side. I don't know how to explain it, but like when I go to work all day, it's predominantly computer stuff. When we podcast, this is a creative outlet for me. It fits that creative outlet, the desire to create something. So I get that from this. I feel like, as artists, as creators, as things like that, they have to have some sort of fulfillment. And I know he said he's working on some things on the side, but Warcraft's always going to be his, that's his baby, that's the thing. It's like, it's like I could see him coming back in some capacity in the future, being like, hey, look, like Bruce Wayne coming back and being like, where do you think you'll fit in? And they're like, applied sciences. Maybe he'll go back to storytelling, and just go that route. But I'm holding out hope. I'll hold out I think he's coming back side. So.
Well, I can see where, and this is part of the reason I say this, is that Thrall was a major character, still is a major character in the franchise, is still alive with his children, and I could see Thrall and company coming back and making some kind of appearance, and yeah, you can always recast that voice, but come on. At this point, if you don't have Chris Metzen doing the voice of Thrall, even if it's just hey guys, we just showed up. Oh, look, the Horde is, okay, we're going to go back to Draenor now. I mean, I could see that. I could see him coming back real quick for something like that. But To me, I think it's very difficult, and they have to draw a line somewhere between moving forward and being able to progress with new people and new ideas and holding on to the past, which I think is, I don't know this for any reason. I'm not saying I've been told this or I've read this anywhere. This is just my own guess. But they caught a lot of flack for Warlords of Draenor and the story that was being told there. And part of the thing is that people really pushed against these older characters being pushed back to the forefront, because that was part of the reason why they brought back all of these older, more famous orcs from the RTS days, was because they hadn't been experienced in Warcraft, and so they wanted to bring them back, and they wanted to do all this stuff. That, to me, reads like a very Chris Metzen idea, because a lot of those creations, I believe, were his. And it just wasn't well received, unfortunately. It just didn't work out, I think, the way that they wanted to. And I wonder if that point, they had to ask themselves, do we need to start making a shift? You know, it sounds like Metzen kind of moved into the Overwatch arena quite a bit, where, you know, when he did the announcement for the game, he talked a lot about the passion and how they really love the game and how he really loved it. He did mention in this article with Scott, or this interview with Scott Johnson, that the very last thing that he worked on was the pre-rendered version of the Battle for Azeroth intro cinematic. So he was still involved in Warcraft, but it did seem like towards the end there he was becoming a little more involved with Overwatch. But overall, it was a great listen. I think he touched on a lot of good points about life in the game industry, about fans and players and, you know, the community that we exist in, and our responsibility, kind of going back to what I said earlier about putting good back out there in the world and trying to, you know, be careful about what sort of feedback you give and why. But highly recommend it. And I know that you had a little bit of an interaction with Scott Johnson about just gear, or kind of giving him some feedback. And, you know, I don't push a lot of shows on this podcast because I'm just selfish like that. But, you know, listen, this guy's kind of our godfather when it comes to podcasting. And Scott Johnson's he's a good guy. He's helped out a lot of people. And check out the instance, check out this interview, and catch up with one of our favorites and my personal Lord and Savior. So now, we've covered kind of the lead up to Battle for Azeroth. We've had all these peripherals going on that we've enjoyed. We've played through the in-game quests. We burned down Teldrassil. Then we came back, and now we have the Battle for Lordaeron. The Alliance finally strikes back. We have Jaina showing up, blowing down the doors. We're running through the ruins of Lordaeron. We have a phenomenal cinematic, in-game cinematic, with Anduin and Gen and team going in like the fucking A-team to go get Sylvanas. They have her like standing right in front of Anduin. He could have just could have gotten her right there, and she gets away.
Muzzle your dog, your majesty.
Ooh. She is sassy.
I love that line.
She is sassy. That's what I'm saying. She's a great character. You got to hand it to them. They really have it. You know, this is the mustache twirling, sinister bad guy shit going down. It's just, but it's pretty great.
Yeah.
So she blasts out of there,
like a
and
fart
does
in
her
the wind.
banshee wail thing, and they completely blight the place again. So now nobody has Lordaeron. Now it's just gone. It's just
it's just gone.
Is it? Just one thought that I had coming out of it. Great cinematic. I had fun running around and terrorizing the horde folks.
Right.
But do you mean to tell me that you can't shoot down another airship?
Jaina's airship's there. It seems pretty
Jaina's
powerful.
right there, man. She just
I think she used
in.
up all of her magic at that point.
Wow.
She's out of mana. Hit the GCD or something.
Oh. Yeah.
Yep. She's tired.
Could be. I know, because I'm watching that and I'm like, wait, where's she going to escape to? And then she's on the ship and they're on the ship and I'm like, blast her! Go get her!
It's
Come
attached
on.
to huge helium whatever's up top. You can just Just blow them up. Hindenburg.
No.
Boom.
That's all right. That's all right. I'll suspend disbelief this one time. And they decided to call it a truce. But at the end of all of that, they put us on really a collision course for this war to continue.
Right.
For the Horde and Alliance, all of this stuff to continue ramping up. But in the meantime, we've got Battle for Azeroth coming, where we're going to be on Alliance side, reconnecting with the Kultirans and kind of checking out the land over there. With the Horde, they're going to be going over to Zandalar, seeing a bunch of crazy, creepy stuff over there. So it does seem like it's going to be a little bit of an indirect path for a little bit. Again, there'll be plenty of surprises in store, I'm sure, and we'll come head to head again, in very short order, I have no doubt. But after going through all of this, the pre-quest, the comics, the shorts, the books, the bullshit from our community, and everything else and in between, how are you feeling in this moment about Battle for Azeroth launching just right around the corner? And what are all of your thoughts leading up to this moment?
Man, I don't know. I'm just, like I said, I'm so excited. Like a kid on Christmas Eve, just waiting for it. I was getting this week. I was making sure that my work queue was cleared out so that I didn't have any disturbances at home, because I'm going into work on Monday, but I'm going to leave work at 3:00, and I'm going to be home and ready for 6:00. 0 hour GMT. They're launching it at 0 hour GMT, literally 0 hour, which is awesome. But yeah, I always get the warm fuzzies before an expansion. I always love. Because it's new for everybody. It's it puts everybody back on that even playing ground. It's new for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I know people have been playing beta and finding the best routes to go, this, that, and the other. Yeah, I don't know how to put it into words other than I'm super excited. I mean, I cleaned off my desk in preparation. My wife was so nice. She cleaned my hat off, my leveling hat, which I've had since Mists, and
it looks nice.
She got it all nice and shiny. Thank you, baby.
You can see it on
it's
Twitter,
awesome.
folks.
Yeah, Geek Chic Lisa. She cleaned off my hat. It's awesome. Supports my hobby. Love her to death.
Hey, no complaints there. Yeah, it's, for me, I think during Legion at some point, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just you get to kind of a point where you feel the grind or you feel a little bit of burnout or whatever it is. And I know for me, it was getting pretty real at a point where I love the story of Legion. I think they did a really good job, but it was just the energy level was starting to dip. And that's always a little concerning to me, because I go, you know what? I love this game. I love this franchise so much. I mean, I have these novels and art books and collector's editions, and I talk about it all the time. I have posters on the wall in my cubicle. I mean, it's so ingrained as part of my life that when I start to feel a little bit of that kind of like feeling, it worries me to an extent. But exactly like you said, I feel right now waiting for Battle for Azeroth like a kid on Christmas.
Yeah.
And I feel this nervous kind of excitement that I haven't felt in a long time when it comes to this game. Seeing people resub and install this game for the first time in years. I'm seeing this all over the place now. There is just a palpable hype that is going on with Battle for Azeroth. Maybe it's not all for the best reasons because of some of the animosity in the community, but in large part, I feel a lot of positivity. I feel a lot of energy coming from the player base, from Blizzard. And if this is the first time that we've seen this much peripheral entertainment and all this stuff coming in, it means that they're just starting to reach another level of their storytelling. And to me, I think that's what's the most compelling part of all of this, is that they're just starting to do more new things, and they're just getting their foot in there, which means that there's going to be more, because this stuff is being received very, very well. So there's no reason for them not to continue to do it. And for me, as the story guy, not so much the nuts and bolts kind of guy, which, by the way, just to further cement that, there was another show that I listened to recently. It's a very large stream podcast, whatever you want to call it, that's out there, pretty well known. And I watched about 10 minutes of it, and I fell asleep because the entire discussion was about mechanics and specific class changes and all that kind of stuff. It just... So again, if you're ever listening to this show going, wow, I really hope Berzerker and Navox talk about these specific class changes in the things that happen with this versus this, in a global cooldown per minute and blah, blah, blah. You're never going to hear me talk about that here. I don't care at all. No. I don't care at all.
I'm with you on that.
Like this is more of the, I was trying to think. If some of these other shows are more like the popular mechanics, I guess, what are we? We're like more...
highlights?
Yeah, highlights. I like that. Yeah. We're more like the highlights. Or like TMZ or BuzzFeed.
TMZ or BuzzFeed, exactly. There we go.
Pure entertainment. I don't really care how the thing is built to some extent. I just want to know how it makes me feel. That's kind of where we're at on this. So, coming into Battle for Azeroth, I couldn't be more excited. And since we're there, and this podcast will go live just moments, hours before Battle for Azeroth itself goes live, what are your plans for opening day? You talked about it a little bit, but what are all of your plans for opening day and for this first week as we rampage into Glorious Battle?
Well, it's going to be, I'm going to log in around 5 o'clock. I'm going to be in game when the game goes live. I'm going to play as much as I can from 6 o'clock till about maybe 1 or 2 o'clock because I'm getting at that point where I start to get tired at midnight now, I noticed. And I'm just like, just succumb to it. Go to sleep, get up the next day and play some more.
Terrible.
I always say I'm not going to rush through the content. And then I feel like I absolutely have to rush through the content. So just so that I'm raid ready to help out my fellow teammates if they want to run dungeons. Oh, yeah. It's like
peer pressure's a bitch.
I've been every expansion I've leveled as a prot warrior. This expansion I'm going to level as a fury warrior.
Yeah.
And then when I want to run dungeons, I'll just swap over to prot and just go in there and tank the instances and whatnot. And that's between that and also taking some breaks. I want to hope everybody, I know a broken record and here comes the dad speech. You drink plenty of water and stand up every 30 minutes. It's like, I'm going to try my best not to rush through it. I want to savor the journey in the next 3 weeks we have prior to whatever the raid. I think the first raid we get comes out in 3 weeks. I think we have 3 weeks to level, right? So I believe that's more than enough time for us to just enjoy the ride, enjoy the leveling to 120. Mm-hmm. But other than that, for preparation, it's just we're going to go to the store tonight. I'm going to get some healthy snacks. We're going to meal prep tonight, things like that. My wife's going to jump in and play some. And that's about it from my end. How about you? What do you have some traditions that you do? Do you do anything are you going to group quest with people? Are you going to solo it? Or,
Typically the opening moments, the first few days at the very least, I always level with my romantic partner, who you know of. And he and I, for the last 10 years now, since the launch of Wrath of the Lich King, when it used to be midnight releases and everything else, we've always jumped on at the same time, leveled together, and gone at least, a good chunk of the way through leveling. And I think with this being the first time that it's going live in the afternoon for us, which is nice. I did buy, as I said I would, the digital edition so I can get going right away because according to Amazon, I still will not get my collector's edition until like Wednesday, maybe Thursday, which is just, I don't understand how that's possible at all. But again, okay. I'm not going to bore you people anymore with my first world problems with collector's editions. So I will be ready to go at 3 o'clock. Hopefully everything's stable. I do have some snacks. I have a, what do I have here? I have my beef jerky.
Oh, that's a good. I need to get some of that.
I have some elk jerky and some beef jerky ready to go. I also have this giant bag of gummy worms and some other stuff because you know what? I'm not going to sit here and tell you to eat tofu and apples and snack wisely and drink plenty of water. For all I care, you can grab a 12-pack of Code Red and fistfuls of pixie dust and just get absolutely shit-faced and loaded and just blast your way through. I don't care. Your health is up to you. And if you want to eat nothing but bad food, I'm not going to tell you to do any different because I'm probably going to pound a bunch of energy drinks while I'm leveling, and I'm going to have a 12-pack Rockstar in this house somewhere. God, if you choose to go with water and tea and healthy snacks, good for you. Whatever gets you through, I'm a proponent of it, but I'm not going to sit here and shame anyone for choosing naughty eating habits while they're leveling because you know what? For me, this is still part of my vacation.
Yeah, same here.
So leading up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I have these last 3 days off of my vacation. And you know what? I'm going to do what I do on vacation, which is not eat healthy. And I don't eat that healthy to begin with, but there might be some big steaks getting grilled up in the back. There might be some Hot Pockets getting cooked up. I don't know. We'll see. I may just put a bedpan in here and just shit right here in the room. Who knows? Even though there's a bathroom right down the hall. Who knows what I'll do. But, this is our time. This is one of our holidays as far as I'm concerned. We don't get a launch of an expansion more than, every 2 years we get one. And you got to enjoy yourself. I mean, that's really my thing, is you really have to enjoy the experience. It's new content. It's something we've never seen. There's going to be fun, exciting, new things happening, and it should be a party. You should be having fun. So if that means you're mixing some, Unshackled Fury margaritas, do it. If, you want to drink some LaCroix, you can doom yourself to that too. That's fine. Be my guest. But for me, it's going to be questing with my friend, and eating some jerky and some snacks and trying to also remember to drop off and pick up my son at summer camp during the week and maintaining some semblance of adult order. But so that's my plan. Looking forward to it. Yeah, here we are, man. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
So I think that will do it for this episode. Other than this fine program, where can the good people find you on the internet, Nav?
Well, you can always follow me out on Twitter. I am at NAV_OX for now. That's going to change here. I'm also going to be streaming. I'll be streaming on Twitch. I'm probably going to stream some of my leveling stuff. Also, I wanted to take a moment and thank my podcasting partner in crime for inviting me on this journey of sharing our interest in World of Warcraft. It's been a privilege working and creating this show alongside you, and I am deeply grateful. I look forward to all of our adventures in the battle for Azeroth. Also, I wanted to do a huge shout out to my wife, who continues to support my hobby. And then last but not least, I wanted to thank all of our listeners, all of you who provide feedback, send in questions and comments for the show on our social media and in-game. We certainly do appreciate it.
Well, thank you, man. Those are kind words, and likewise, it's always a pleasure to have you here with me and raging on whatever we're raging on, and sharing my passion as well in this great game of ours. And my thanks to your wife as well. She's very sweet, and she keeps you in line, and I really appreciate that. As well as all of our listeners, thank you as always for listening to this little show of ours. We don't necessarily have to have the reach and impact of some juggernaut behemoth show or some streamer extravaganza. What we're building here is something that's true, it's honest, and I'll always try to bring that to you, as will Navox. So thank you all for coming along this ride as well as we jump into Battle for Azeroth. So as for me, you can always find me on Twitter at Berzerker Rage. You can feel free to contact this show with your questions, comments, or otherwise at unshackledfuryshow@gmail.com. And you can always find this show on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. So until next time, remember to keep your swords wet and your banners high, and enjoy the launch of Battle for Azeroth. Farewell.